Now I'm very excited to welcome back a great sports bettor and good friend of the show, and Mr. Will Hill from VSIN and the Gold Boys Discord. You can follow him on Twitter at not the Will Hill. Will, thanks for coming back on the show. Last time I had you on, you were on that incredible run during March Madness, my friend. How was your summer?
It was good. Yeah, it's hard to believe. Like, it seems like a while ago, but it seems like 10 minutes ago at the same time. I think, as you get older, the time just goes by so fast. It felt like summer was here and it was gone. Like 4th of July feels like 10 minutes ago, but it's a great time of the year. I mean, this is really one of the better times of the year. Football starting, baseball pennant races. It's really, if you're betting and betting seriously, there's not enough hours of the day, as we were talking about off the air. I mean, there's just so much to handicap. There's so many markets now, so many moving parts, but it's fun, man. I'm excited. We get college football in full swing now, and NFL shortly after, and I'm excited.
Oh, me too. I'm so jacked for NFL, man. And college already kind of started last week with week 0. A couple interesting games. It was a little anticlimactic. I mean, Notre Dame just blew the heck out of Navy. I mean, that game was even close, and that was a
Spread
supposedly
total drama. That's the only thing that had total drama, depending on the number you got.
And I was going for a middle, so
me too, man. For not a small amount of money too. And first and go with the 4, I was, man, this is so good. This is too good to be true. Then before you know it, the holding penalty, and Navy's not meant to overcome those. I'm assuming it was a holding penalty because I was flying, but I was just watching the game cast. First and goal from the 4, all excited. Then second and goal from the 14 or whatever, and I was like, it was either a sack or a holding, and they ended up settling for a field goal, which was frustrating because that was a wide open middle. It was right there for us.
Yeah, I was in the Circa pool watching with the wife, and as soon as that got 35-0, I tweeted out, I'm going to try to middle my 48.5. And world to the wise, guys, if ever a team is 35-0 and obviously it's pacing over early in the third, you take that live under because you know what's happening in the fourth quarter. They're dogging it. The other team obviously couldn't score against this defense anyway. It's not like they're going to put up another 20 or 30 points. It's one of those situations where I made a full hedge over under 53 to try to hit that over 48.5. And yes, if they got that touchdown, man, come on. I'm watching, like, people are like wondering, like, I think I was a Navy fan just praying for points or something, that they took the 3 to not get the blowout, which is, one of those situations where you're like, well, thanks a lot, guys. Really appreciate it. But here we are. Week 1, a lot more games. It's still not completely football season, but hey, we got some big games. I'm real excited about it. Ready to talk with you about this big week, my man. But first, baseball. I mean, what the hell happened in New York? I think when I talked to you, we're talking season win totals and stuff like that, but I didn't expect to see both teams kind of in the dumps right now.
They're different. And I grew up a Yankee fan, so I'm a little harder on the Yankees. Yankees in 2017 were in the ALCS up 3-2, 1 game away from going to a World Series with a young team, an exciting team. And they had Stanton the next year, but they really didn't do a lot after that. The following years, they passed on Harper, Machado. They passed on so many opportunities to improve the talent. And, they're beholden to this luxury tax. They don't want to spend too much money. They still spend a lot, but they don't want to, it's not like the George Steinbrenner teams where they're just going to overpower everybody with their wallet. So that's caught up to him because, Judge, it cost a lot of money to retain him. They didn't extend him while they had the chance, so they had to really pay top dollar for him. They paid for Cole. And they didn't really improve around the margins. They went cheap with like Rizzo instead of Freddie Freeman. They went cheap at shortstop. It's just not a great team. And it's a shame because they're wasting, Judge's prime, Cole's prime. These guys aren't going to be great in their prime, youngish forever. And you getting a Cy Young season out of Cole. Judge is hurt. Judge has always been hurt except for last year. And, last year was really the exception. So there's just not a lot of talent there. And you got to think either Cashman or Boone, one of them, they both can't be back. Somebody's got to pay the price for this. My guess is it's probably Boone and Cashman comes back, but Yanks don't like missing the playoffs. They haven't gone all out to win recently, but they don't like that ballpark being empty September, October, because that is money down the drain. And let's face it, once September starts, school starts, football's back, the Yankees are an afterthought. They've been an afterthought. That's going to be a bad look for the Yankees where that building's half empty here in September playing meaningless games. So it's been a disaster. As for the Mets, I can't kill them as much. You know what? When Cohen took over, a couple off seasons ago, they were in a tough spot. They didn't have a lot of talent. The only chance for them to win was to take a chance on older pitchers. Scherzer a couple years ago, Verlander this past season, and hope for the best. Hope they stayed healthy. Hope they still had enough left in the tank. It generally worked last year, won 101 games. It didn't work this year, and they said, you know what, we'll pivot. We're nowhere near the Braves. We're not winning. We're not going to fool ourselves into going for a wild card, which they weren't that far out when they traded these guys. They could have made added a couple guys and made a fake run at a wild card spot, but they did, I think, the right thing. I think the smart thing is saying, you know what, we'll take our hits here. You guys can kill us for having a high payroll, not making the playoffs, tanking, all this stuff, but we're going to collect prospects. We're going to pay off some of these contracts. We're going to we're going to trade Scherzer for a young player that looks like he could be a good player down the road. Same thing with Verlander. And we're going to regroup here. We'll be back. We'll be heard from in a couple years. So Atlanta's just on a different level for them. I think what the Mets did was smart. They just, look, Scherzer and Verlander were going to take them as far as they were going to go, and they didn't have anything left. So Mets at least have a plan. The Yankees are sort of rudderless right now. I don't know what the Yankees' plan is. I don't know if they have a plan. They're not a player or two away from competing either. And you look at the free agents, it's not like they're going to just add this guy and that guy and they're going to be back. They're not very close. So Mets are not in good position in terms of winning next year. They're not going to be a contender next year. They don't have enough pitching, but they at least have a brighter outlook. They at least have a plan, a direction in terms of where they're going.
That's true. It's hard to fault a team that had to work their way back than a team that's always been up there like the Yankees. I do agree with that. And it seems like they have some dead money there. I Judge is definitely the retainable guy. Stanton's just dead money. There's not a lot you can do with that, but they do have the money, at least if it comes to the situation. But with no farm system, and I don't know a ton about the Yankees farm system, you get a little worried, and that means you're always paying for guys, and that could be a little tough down the road. But it's just a strange thing to see after 101 wins, like you said last year, the Yankees on the verge for them to certainly both make the playoffs. Baltimore certainly stole a lot of wins, and they're not winning today, but that was an easy season win total that was already a hit for us. So was pretty excited about hitting Baltimore
right there.
last week. Yeah, that was one of them. I'm still waiting on a few more, but
Mets under clinched. Mets under clinched a few days ago or something. Mets under is officially a winner. They were 92, 93, depending upon when and where you got it, but they are not going over. That is breaking news.
That's right. We're still in August, and the under clinches. Yeah. That is bad news, my friend. Yeah. Let's move into a little New York football, man. So the Jets, right? Lots of hype. I know you're not a Jets fan, you're a Viking fan, but you obviously living in Connecticut, you are very in tune to the Giants and the Jets. And a lot of people, I hear some sharper people kind of saying pump the brakes on them. There's a lot of Aaron Rodgers hype. I'm going to ask you, is the hype warranted or for real, or do you have more of a pessimistic approach to the New York Jets?
I am actually all in on the Jets, and I hear most people talk about the Jets, and I hear a lot of like what you just said, where it's like, oh, it's a lot of hype. I don't know that it's a lot of hype. I think more people's opinion is, oh, it's not going to work. You know what it is? People don't like Rodgers. People want to root against Rodgers, whether it's political stuff and vaccines, or he's arrogant. He's actually come off pretty well, I think, on Hard Knocks. Now that's he knows he's he knows he's in front of the camera, and he played well to it. but I just think people want to root against them. I actually think they are set up really well here. Now the schedule's tough. The schedule's really tough. But this team last year was 7-4, I think, and Berrios dropped the ball in the end zone in Minnesota would have made him 8-4. They probably had the worst quarterback play in the entire league last year. Now you're going to have Rodgers. All right, so let's just say he's older now. What, 8th, 10th, 12th best quarterback? That's still a massive upgrade from what they had. Breece Hall gets hurt. He was going to be rookie of the year. All right, Garrett Wilson steps up. He's rookie of the year. Sauce Gardner on the other side of the ball is rookie of the year. They were second in the league last year, yards per play allowed defensively, points allowed per game defensively. So this is a really good defense. They add Rodgers, who just needs to be pretty good on offense. And the Jets, look, Jets fans have not had a lot of success. So if they made the playoffs, won a game, and lost in the second round, it's not like this is going to be a disaster. Jets would be thrilled to have a game in the middle of January, against the Chiefs in the divisional round. Whatever happens from there is just gravy. So I think this is a playoff team. Again, nothing's easy in the AFC. Nothing's easy in the AFC East. But to me, this is a 10-11 win team. Toss up to win the division. I guess you favor Buffalo, but I'll actually pick the Jets. I think they're the best bet in terms of the value to win that division. And I think the Jets are going to be playing into January. I think this is going to work. I think they're a legit contender. And to take it one step further, look, I was pounding my fist all year last year for Dable Coach of the Year. I know how these narratives work. If Saleh can get this team to 11 wins in the playoffs, we saw it with Mike Brown and the Kings. We saw, Dable last year. The Giants haven't been good forever. Saleh will be a big-time front runner for Coach of the Year. I know people say, oh, Rodgers will get the credit. People like the story. People like the fact they haven't made the playoffs in 12 years. It's the longest drought in North American sports now. the losing team that's been bad forever that finally wins, that coach always gets recognition for coach of the year. So Salah, 16-1, 18-1 coach of the year, I think is very live here. I think the Jets are going to be really good.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Salah, wow, coach of the year. That could happen if Rodgers does not get a reward, because they like to reward somebody in some cases. If a team does well and they're not giving the MVP to the quarterback or something, they'll find another reason to do that. If there's no rookie of the year, obviously Breece Hall last year was the big front runner for a while, and then there was just Carter's already been a rookie. It just seems like that could happen. So I don't disagree with that at all. What's that? What did you say? 18-1, 20-1?
Yeah, 16-1, 18-1 shop around. I think the 21s are gone. So not 16, we'll call it 16-1.
I like that look. They have a hard 6 games at first, but you know what? A lot of people say wait till after the 6 games. Well, what if they go 5-1 in the first 6 games?
Forget it.
It's like there's 2 mindsets here. Now I say that it's going to be tough, and I'd be happy with 3-3 if they get out of that 3-3. If I'm a Jets fan, but realistically, out of that, I mean, Kansas City, you got Buffalo, some tough games. I'd be happy with 3-3 if I was a Jets fan, but anything above that is gravy. And that could, and the books will know that. The market's going to know that. They're the last half of the schedule is certainly where you want to be at. Giants, man, what do you think? Can they make another playoff run here? They're kind of like a little bit overrated. Maybe not quite as much as a 13-win Vikings team, but still, they were a little bit overrated last year, I thought, coming in. But it was also good coaching by Daboll, because it was him being a big part of those offensive drives that had them win those games, and they won a lot of one-score games. But do you think this is repeatable in a very tough division with the Cowboys and the Eagles?
I do not. I think they are a major regression candidate. I actually suggested them before Arizona tore it down. I think Giants 30-1 to worst record's not a terrible bet, because Jones was healthy last year, but he's had a history of getting hurt. He's a running quarterback. And I followed him closely last year, having those Daboll Coach of the Year tickets. And the reason I thought he deserved it, there was no talent on that team. It was all close games. Titans missed a field goal. This team misses a field goal. It was all close games and a soft schedule. That schedule turns this year. Obviously, you get the 4 games against the Cowboys and the Eagles. You'd probably be lucky to get one of those 4 games. Maybe you split with Washington. So that's probably 2-4, 1-5. They play the AFC. It's a really, really tough schedule. It was easy last year. They got lucky in close games. I think they are a major regression candidate. Now, they're going to be well coached. Daboll and even Kafka, I think, will be somebody's head coach down the road here. But, man, you got a quarterback that's injury prone that likes to run, a running back that's older that's probably not happy with his contract. It's basically the same team as last year. I mean, last year I think was fool's gold. They came in a bad cap situation, and everyone just assumed, all right, 5-6 wins, whatever. And they overachieved. They even won a playoff game, but I don't think it's happening again. I would actually lay, I think there was a -170, -180 for them to miss the playoffs. I don't know if that number's gone. That's a cheap price to me. I don't think they're a playoff team. The 8s are gone. I don't like playing under 7.5 when I could add under 8, but certainly wouldn't play the over. I think they're a major, major regression candidate. They're taking a couple steps back this year.
Well, the market agrees with you, and they have some serious unproven receivers right there. Paris Campbell, he didn't do anything with the Colts. There's did you in the highlights like a sleeper in fantasy drafts? I actually grabbed him last night, but it's just Washington's still banged up, right? Is he going to start the season? I don't even.
And Waller's good, but Waller needs to play. I mean, Waller looks the part here in the preseason, but Waller misses a ton of games. So Waller's basically like a receiver, even though he's called the tight end. But you're going to need to keep Waller on the field.
Oh, right. And he had a bad ending to that Raiders stint. He was it's more than a stint. Obviously, he was there a long time, but there was some bad blood there on their breakup. So you wonder, you always wonder if it's him or the Raiders. You never know for sure. And a lot of times it's both, but still, it's always ugly to see some of that stuff. The market agrees. 7.5. I definitely didn't bet the over on the Giants. I think they might be meddling at some point, but ATS is kind of where I'm more focused week to week on this team and how I'm going to approach them. Let's get into some college football, baby, because there's some fun games coming up this weekend, and we each pick 2. You happen to pick 2 that I have 2 plays in, so I'm really excited to see whether we agree or disagree on them. I'm going to let you start here with NC State versus UConn. UConn's 14.5, kind of sliding down to 14 in some spots.
14.5 disappearing.
Yeah, number 46.5. Now that's disappearing. Hopefully people can, jump on it if they decide to make a play based upon what you have to say. What do you got for this game?
I played UConn. Again, I would still play at 14.5. At 14, it gets dicey. This has been all UConn money coming in. And I could see why. NC State, who I actually like as a program, I think this could be maybe a breakthrough year for them. It's just there's a lack of continuity. New offensive coordinator, new quarterback. They lose a lot of their receivers. They weren't a great running team last year, so it's not a great rushing like offensive line. And I just think this is going to be sort of a low-scoring, grimy game where that NC State defense gives people trouble. I could see like I don't know, a 27-13 type of game. I just think the 14.5 is very valuable in a game that I think is going to be low scoring. UConn was one of the great coaching jobs in the season last year. We talked about Dable doing more with less. I mean, what Mora did at UConn is one of the great jobs, because where they were a couple years ago, where there was talk they would relegate the program into what they did last year, was really impressive. So I think this is close. I think it's low scoring. And I can't get out the under now. I mean, it was 50 a week or so ago, a couple weeks ago. We're down to 47 now, 46.5. So that's really cutting it close, but I will still stick with UConn plus the points. I'm curious where your head's at with this game.
I took UConn plus the points. I took plus 15 when it was at the 15. And so we have some agreement here. Out is Devin Leary, as you said. Virginia transfer Brendan Armstrong is interesting. He was good in a better system from 2021. Had a really bad year last year, but it doesn't mean that it's going to automatically be fixed so quickly this year. New quarterback, new system. They lost a lot of guys there. This NC State team was minus 1.15 yards per play, just average in returning production, but nothing big in the transfer portal. Now these days, if you want to kind of keep going, I'd like to see you ranked in the top 35 or something in the transfer portal, but you're not getting any transfers there. And you have UConn with Jim Mora, who is a big name head coach. He's been to the big games. And last year, they got a little taste of that upset, beating Boston College and Fresno State last year. I know it was without Jake Haener, but still, this was Jim Mora's first year. Great returning production. They ranked number 6 in returning production this year. The quarterback play should be better. I think it's too many points for a team that has upset on their minds. They've done it already, and they're at home. Low total, you always want to take the dog too. That thing's coming down for a reason, and that's going to drive the point spread down. I wouldn't be shocked if it gets down to 13.5 with this 46.5 total either. So that's interesting. I'm not saying I like it at 14, but I certainly liked it at 14.5 and 15. So we have total agreement there. Will. Nebraska versus Minnesota. I picked this game. Minnesota's -7, and the total is very low at 43.5. Well, this low total probably triggered that 7.5 being gone. And to be honest with you, I've been hemming and hawing about this spread for the last few weeks. Will, here's the thing. In Nebraska, I'm high on them with Matt Rule and Sims, their new quarterback. But it's really hard to bet on them the first week, because all the first weeks they've had just seem to be in just disarray, especially last year against Northwestern. It's just, it's just like I could see betting this and then just them just getting smoked, being them. It's the name sometimes, and it's also just it's hard to explain. You got the new coach in Matt Rule, but he wasn't exactly the greatest new coach the very beginning of his Temple days and his Baylor days. Now in Carolina, obviously that's the NFL and something a little bit different. But if it goes back to 7.5 for whatever reason, I'd probably be forced to take it. I don't think it's going to go back. But the reason I Will, is because Tanner Morgan's gone, and he's been there a long time, and he was their quarterback, right? Now they got a guy named Ethan, I think it's Kaliki Manis. I think that sounds like a Christmas song, Kaliki Manis. I don't know. It's just very strange to me. He did well. He didn't do well. 54% last year. So whenever he came in for Morgan, he wasn't all that great. The Gophers have had better line play, and they're like a team that's above average in everything, but not great at anything, it seems. But they've had a lot of turnover there too. PJ Fleck rode the boat. Looking at their history, Nebraska's been beating this team by 7 points the last few times, so it's almost a perfect spread now at 7. I'm going to stay away from it, but I did want to talk about it a little bit, being that there's so much change with these programs, Will.
I would actually play an over now, and I don't want to play overs here week 1, week 0 with the new rules. I like unders, especially early in the year. These teams don't have preseason games. It's not like the NFL where they get to sharpen their knives a little bit. I think Minnesota's not going to be as good on defense. They lost a lot of talent, especially in the secondary, and I think here's the thing. I think they have to get more modern. They have to evolve on offense because they've basically, been a service academy. They run the ball, 70% of the time. So I think there's going to be an emphasis throwing the ball more effectively, and they're not going to be good on defense. Plus the totals come down. I mean, I think it was 47, 48, then down to 45. Now
it came down because the 20-mile-per-hour winds, and that's why.
There you go. That would probably keep me off the over then. Directionally, I think Minnesota might be an over team just because I think they're not as good on defense and they're going to throw the ball more. But hey, I didn't look into the weather. That's a good pickup by you. So that would probably keep me off it. But I think Minnesota in general will be an over team. I actually haven't played a Minnesota under for season wins, but that would be the way I would go. I just don't think they're as good on defense anymore.
Yeah, I would have certainly looked at this over if I didn't look at the wind earlier myself. So yeah, it's like one of those situations you start capping it and you're like, wait a second, you find the win at this situation. I hate wind more than rain. I think people should know that listen to this show. But if you're new to this show, wind definitely affects totals more than rain, being that's just so hard to throw the ball and team stack the box. But that doesn't mean that games have not gone over just because of newer defense, newer schemes. Not be able to gel right away, younger kids. Yeah, that still could happen. It's too low for me to bet for sure. I'm not betting under 43.5, under 44.5. If it was back over 45, maybe I would consider something like that just due to the wind. But it's a situation where I think 7.5, if you can find that, I would certainly give you a strong lean to Nebraska. But it's just one of those situations. You take Nebraska 7.5, they lose by 10. It would not be shocking to me to see that happen. Let's move on to the next game then. And one of the ones you picked, Central Michigan versus Michigan State, and Sparty is minus 14.5, and the total is 45.5. What do you have for this one?
I like Central Michigan. Make sure you get the 14.5. There's some 14s out there. There's some 14.5s. Obviously, that's all the difference in the world with a key number with the hook. So you want to be able to win instead of push. You want to win instead of push, obviously. So I'm just looking to fade Michigan State pretty much all year. I mean, look, $98 million doesn't get you what it used to with the coaching here. I mean, he signed at the right time. He owes Ken Walker a big part of that salary because this program is just a disaster. They have holes all over the team. And I think Central Michigan, look, they weren't good last year at all, but McElwain's one of the better coaches, I think, at this level. He tends to not have two bad seasons in a row. If you look at them last year, a lot of bad luck with turnovers. I mean, not all. When you're a bad team, you're going to turn it over more than a good team, obviously, but minus 18, I think they were in turnovers. They were minus in turnovers in every game, or I should phrase that differently. They were not plus turnovers in every game. So they were either minus or neutral in every game. So that tends to even out a little bit. They're not bad on defense. Should be a little bit better on offense. 14.5 with this Michigan State team is a lot of points. I'll take them here with the Chippewas.
All right, man. Well, I guess great minds, because that's where I went to. Got to create the dog here. And it's just a lot of things happen over the offseason, especially with the transfer portal the last couple of years. It keeps getting worse and worse. And teams keep changing a little bit more, which puts a lot of more variance into these early games. But that's kind of when I look for teams to fade rather than just teams to back. And Michigan State is certainly on that list, just like yours. For me, Will. There's a few teams out there that you got to keep fading until you see something different. And I do agree, Mel Tucker, being a Bears fan, watching him get hired from the worst defense on the Jaguars, they bring him to the Bears like something's going to change. And then he had like the 32nd defense in the NFL. I'm like, how does this guy have a job? Then all of a sudden Michigan State happens and he struck gold with some coordinators and some transfers. And that's what it was. It was coordinators and transfers. It wasn't him. And now he's stuck. And Peyton Thorne transferring at the last minute, was that June or something he transferred, like May or June? That's late for a quarterback. And so now Mel Tucker is not announcing even the quarterback he has. Well, what I said in the last show, I said, if the team or the beat writers don't know which quarterback it's going to be, it means they don't have a quarterback. Obviously, right. There's no hype going on right now. And if there was a great competition, you'd be hearing more about it. I just can't bet on a team that showed this bad last year, especially when they lost their best player on the team, which was Peyton Thorne, who went to Auburn, which is another team I don't love. But Central Michigan, at least they return 80% of their defense. It's not like their defense was good, but maybe these kids grow up a little bit, get a little stronger. They did have a young defense last year. And Jim McElwain is a big-name coach. He coached at Florida a little bit. So it's not like he hasn't played against big competition in the past.
Been in SEC title games. I mean, look, it's you don't just wake up in the SEC title game. That's a hard game to get to, and he's been there multiple times, which it seems like a long time ago because it's been so Georgia, Bama dominated. But look, he coached in at least two of them.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that's just the pedigree that we're betting on. We're betting on Jim Mora. We're betting on Jim McElwain, the two Jims, and hopefully that experience is kind of what you're bringing in. You're getting 2 touchdown dogs. Well, one of them that we have obviously is a home dog, and one of them is from the same state. Don't think these kids didn't think about Michigan
Good
State,
point.
before, and now they want to definitely put it to their buddies that played with them in high school and show them a few things. So I love some of these situations where they come up. I grabbed the 14.5, and I think just like you said, it'll be down to 14 very soon.
Some of them are already showing 14. So yeah,
there you go. So let's move on to the next game, and we're just going to talk about one more game: LSU versus Florida State. Florida State plus 2.5, total 56.5. And I'm telling you, this thing's leaning more and more towards LSU. This is going to be a Camping World Stadium there, and right in Florida. And there's going to be plenty of LSU fans there too. It's not like I'm going to give Florida State anything major for home advantage. But I will say that it is creeping up towards LSU. Both teams are just, both teams are massively hyped. Florida State is more hyped than Clemson in the ACC this year with how good Jordan Travis has done. And LSU, I could argue with Daniels there is as hyped as Alabama, or probably even maybe even a little bit more in some ways. So, all the noise is going their direction because, well, they did win it in 2019. Bama hasn't won it much since then. It was Georgia. It's a situation where both of them did amazing in the transfer portal. They're ranked really high in the transfer portal. All 5 offensive linemen are back for LSU. Both teams return a ton of production. It's almost like you can kind of go by some of the stats from last year, and sometimes I like to do that. Offensive success rate for LSU is 10th in the nation, 16th for Florida State. Defensive success rate, 36 for LSU, 56 for Florida State. Now, LSU, one yard per play, but they had the much harder schedule, ranking 13th on Sagarin. Florida State was 2 yards per play, 2.12, 51st rated schedule on Sagarin, had the easier schedule. It's going to be an amazing game. And what's so funny is that their win total is so conditioned on this first game. It's like, how fast do you think the market adjusts? I think pretty fast. You have to think that everyone would assume this, but it's going to move these teams a half point minimum up or down just from this game itself coming into the next week for their win total. The only thing that really worries me about LSU is I've seen Daniel struggle in some situations. It did take them a little bit of luck to beat Alabama at home. They did force overtime. It was just a very tough environment for Alabama. They're not that explosive. They're only 112th in explosive plays, while Florida State ranks 16th in offensive explosiveness. And on the defensive side of the ball, defensive line was kind of struggling at Florida State, ranking only 111th in defensive line yards, while LSU's defensive line was better. LSU has the better defense. Can Florida State and Norvell scheme their way kind of around that with that running quarterback? It's just going to be such an interesting game. The total is pretty high. I'm excited as hell to watch it, but I am not going to place a bet unless this goes to a pretty even 3. I think it might go back to a 3 by game time. I would probably bet Florida State if that was the case, just because my number is 2, and Florida State I feel is very closely power rated. I have 2-point difference. 3 is a key number, but it would be a last minute decision if I make it. I'm not saying I would for sure. What do you think, Will?
I am seeing a 3. You make a good point. Never take 2.5 unless you absolutely have to, because you might get a 3. And if you do, that's the big difference between, hey, if it goes from 2.5 to 2, you live with it. Most games aren't going to land on 2. It's a very uncommon number, especially in college. Maybe a little more so with the overtime now, but you get the point. You'd rather have the 3. If it goes to 2, you live with it. So there are some 3s starting to pop up. I see one now. The under's gotten some money, which I can understand. I think big game. We see this in the Super Bowl a lot. Big game. There's a feeling out process. Hey, let's not lose it early. This is big for our playoff hopes. There's some nerves. Let's be a little conservative. We're not going to be ultra aggressive here. Let's not lose it right away. If it's 3rd and forever, let's not, have a turnover. Let's just check it down, punt, live for another day. So that kind of thing. So
right.
I could see the sentiment towards the under. Just in general with LSU, you hinted at it. I think the ball bounced their way a little bit last year, whether it was Alabama, Arkansas, Auburn. They had a bunch. They had some good luck in some low-scoring games. So I think that's driving this hype a little bit. That being said, I mean, I like the continuity. You bring back the coach, you bring back the quarterback, you bring back both coordinators. Not a lot of teams can say that in this world of college football where everybody's changing teams every 10 minutes. So that I like. If I had to play it, I would take the 3 and I would play the under.
Yeah, this is a Sunday game, standalone game. And yeah, is it a juice 3 you saw, or is
Minus
it more?
112.
Okay, minus 112. I'm looking on my ad screen too. A couple of those like
I don't know. Am I
distant
allowed to say the
offshores.
book or no?
Yeah, go ahead.
Bet Rivers.
Bet Rivers. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
Bet Rivers is a quick adjuster. It's starting to move in some of the offshores as well. Some of these books I haven't heard of, but you're going to get some of that. But
There's a lot of that too, where people are like, oh, bet this. Where is that? Oh, this, whatever bet. I don't know what that is. I've never heard of that.
Bets 365 is usually a decent one. I do see it at Bet Rivers minus 111 now at Bet Rivers. So I do see it. Yeah, I mean, I wonder if it gets gobbled up and it goes back down to 2.5. Some people have access to Bet Rivers, or we actually have Bet Rivers on our website. If you ever want to get a promo, it's on our Bet Now link. But I just like I said, it would not be. It's not like you're super excited to take it at 3, but I do see Jordan Travis making this game close. It could backdoor easily to 3 or something better for you. This could be a 1-possession game. Certainly at the end of this game, a total 55.5 at FanDuel, 58 at PointsBet. So that's a pretty big difference. That's almost worth a middle. Take a look at something like that.
That is, especially 57, 58. Those are key numbers. That's absolutely 56, 57. Those are key numbers. That's a huge middle.
Yeah, that is a nice middle if you can get both books on that. So look for middles also early in this college football season. You can definitely get some opportunity there. Well, let's pivot to football. Well, NFL football, I'd like to say. And now I know it's early, but you got to just kind of touch on the lines here. I'm going to share my Betfred odds screen here and just kind of just do a quick discussion on it. I don't think, unless you have some serious thoughts or a play you like to do, I like just talking like it from a high level on some of this. You got Detroit versus Kansas City starting out here, and 6.5 is the spread. Kansas City minus 6.5. This kind of was at 7 at one point. The total is at 54. Now, to be honest with you, I don't have Detroit that much worse than I Kansas City is my best team. I have them as best, but early in the season, my power ratings are definitely more tighter together than they are later.
More conservative. I know what you mean.
Yeah, for sure. They're more scrunched up. And in this situation, I'm not there. I'm probably around 4.5 personally, but it's not a massive percentage difference for me to make a bet. And it's just one of those situations, like you said earlier, why take 6.5, or maybe you get 7 later, right? Sure. It's just how you sports bet. So, my opinion is that the Lions are a team that could easily backdoor anybody. They have a great offense. Sure, their defense hasn't always been great, but Kansas City has some problems with Jones sitting there on the IR and some of their better players that they lost from last year. I'm not 100% on Kansas City Chiefs defense, especially in a hangover Super Bowl year. This is kind of Detroit's way of saying, we missed the playoffs, but we beat the Packers. We kind of should have been in the playoffs if the Rams didn't get whatever out of that Seattle game, if everybody remembers. I'm going to give you a strong lean to the Lions.
I bet the over. I mean, it's moved. I still wouldn't bet the under here. I think this is, 34-24, that kind of game. I could see this being like 34-24. Lions have the ball late, driving for a backdoor cover, that kind of thing. Lions are the king of the backdoor covers. They're always feisty as a dog. I have a hard time seeing, unless the Lions have some drastic improvement on defense, they are just going to get carved up in the secondary. Andy Reid with extra time to prepare. Mahomes, good weather, and the Lions will get their points too. So I would still play an over 54. This opened 51.5, which was a bad number. So I don't even know that I got a good chunk of over 51.5. Usually I would play back and play for a middle. I don't even know if I'm going to do that. That's how good I feel about points in this game, especially good weather. These offenses. I just think we're gonna be looking at a track meet. Now, week 1, it's always a little look. You think you know things, but you don't always know things. So I would still look at an over, maybe a Chiefs team total over. I do think you'll get a 7, because I don't know if you'll get a 7.5. These books are probably going to want teaser protection. The Chiefs are going to be a very popular teaser. I'll just tell you right now, Chiefs, Washington, that's going to be the ultimate public teaser week 1, fading the Cardinals and then getting the Chiefs in a standalone game here. So for me, it would be over. I would lean towards the Lions plus the points, just because, hey, if you're down 13, 14 late. The Lions are going to play hard. They're going to call their timeouts. Like Campbell plays hard till the end, the final whistle. And there's a lot of backdoor potential here. So I'd lean Lions, and I like the over here.
All right, man. Great line value you have there, and no disagreement. I mean, I hope you hit the over, because that's going to make a really exciting Thursday night football game for the first game of the season. So that would be wonderful. It's funny. Cardinals, Commanders, it's at -7 when Colt McCoy got canned. Josh Dobbs is the assumed quarterback. I doubt it's Clayton Tune. Dobbs did a pretty good job with Tennessee. I thought it was more the team and the coaching myself, but it's funny how this didn't move. And I just think maybe a teaser leg, because I do see this going to 7.5. So maybe you grab your teaser early if you think that you have to pass the 7.5 for it to have value. But if you kind of know where the direction of the line is going to go, and that's worked out for me in the past, maybe you take it at 7. But it just depends what you're partnering with, because there's a lot of questions for like Cleveland Browns and Cincinnati. Is Burrow really that healthy? If Burrow doesn't play, then you're going to wish you had that Browns plus 8.5 on your teaser leg. But situation here. Any quick thoughts on why it didn't move?
Yeah, I mean, I just don't know how much you can downgrade from McCoy. Like, McCoy's at the stage of his career where I guess it just doesn't matter that much. I mean, I have seen some 7.5s pop up. I mean, can McCoy really be a point better than anybody? I guess to answer your question more directly, it's probably because Dobbs looked good. Standalone game against Jacksonville, he was respectable. Was it the Cowboys that Thursday night game too? So Dobbs has looked okay. Maybe that's why, but
yeah,
there's still some time left. Not everyone. Look, you and I live this. We breathe it. There's not always, the public isn't sitting there thinking about Washington, Arizona bets. So maybe, we see another tick or two here before this game kicks off. My guess is we would. I wouldn't be surprised if this close.
Maybe if you and I quarterback for Arizona and move a half point, maybe that would do it. All right. Carolina versus Atlanta. This is 3.5. I mean, Carolina has just looked so bad in the preseason, yet Atlanta, I'm not 100% sold on Ritter. It's kind of a good line for first week. I don't have much on that. Do you have anything, or should we pass?
Okay, I mean, it's hard. There's a difference between being better and giving content. Like, I played under, but that number's long gone. Directionally, I like an under because you got a rookie quarterback without a lot of speed, a lot of weapons at his disposal behind a bad offensive line. Atlanta's going to be a running team, so that clock's going to be running. It's just, man, what's it, 40.5? When you could have had 43, that's tough to play. I'd say if you like Atlanta, get it now, because I wouldn't be surprised if 4.5 pop up. Atlanta's the darling of the summer. All these people that are pretty sharp. I'm not scoffing at it, but there's a lot of sharp people that like Atlanta. Carolina's look bad, so wouldn't be shocked if we got a 4 here. I'd be tempted to play Carolina at 4.5 because it's a division game. It should be lower scoring. I know how bad Carolina's look, but it's starting to be a point here where I would actually look towards Carolina. I know that's probably a contrarian play, but I lean towards the dog. I have a hard time laying points in week 1. I really do.
Well, I also remember Carolina sticking it to New Orleans and beating them in New Orleans that last game. There's still some players from that team. It's not like we've seen them in preseason. So, that they could do that again. I'm scared of this game. Browns Bengals. This is just Joe Burrow contingent, in my opinion, but I would lean strongly to the Browns. There's a good trend that the home divisional dogs for game 1 are. It's like 60% or something. It's a very nice number. I can't think of it.
Very good, yes.
And I'm going to lean Browns, but that would be a great teaser piece as well, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. That's another situation where, hey, if you're paying attention, if you're working hard, hey, you probably got Browns +3 in your pocket, because when that news broke, a lot of people were tweeting out, "Oh man, this is so horrible." The real bettors are firing in bets on Bengals under 11.5, Browns +3 week 1, you name it. So, look, I can certainly understand Browns plus the points. If nothing else, like, this is prep time loss for Burrow, even if he's completely healthy, and that you hear these doctors be like, "Hey, there's a chance for re-injury." Whether it's a calf, whether this could lead to an ACL. To me, this would be Browns or nothing. Browns actually, remember that Monday night game, I think it was Halloween. It was. Browns kicked their butts that Monday night game. Cincinnati ended up not losing another game the rest of the regular season, but this would be Browns or nothing. Great teaser like.
All right, no disagreement. Let's switch from the Texans Ravens. I really don't feel like talking about that one. Jaguars Colts 4.5 on the Betfred odds screen. Total is 45. This is one that you want to just be like, the Colts are going to suck. I think the Jaguars are substantially better than the Colts. I don't know if my number's that far though, especially if you're giving 2 points to the Colts for home, 1.5 to 2. This is one of those where the Jaguars should do it, but it's also a situation where it's week 1 and crazy things happen.
Yeah.
This could be one where the Jaguars outgain them by 250 yards and win by 3. This is the NFL. It's just that's just how bad it is to bet a divisional favorite in this situation on week 1. So my heart wants to go Jacksonville. My brain would bet the Colts if you hold the gun to my head, but I think it's a good line.
Yep, I would take the points. I think, look, I had Jags at long tickets last year, division, make the playoffs. They were very good to me, but I think people are forgetting, like, Tennessee fell apart, had a million injuries. I mean, it took a strip sack, fumble return touchdown to beat Josh. We mentioned Josh Dobbs, the aforementioned Dobbs. It took a strip sack, return touchdown just to win that game for Jacksonville to get in the playoffs at home. So, and then the Chargers fell apart. I think people get a little carried away with Jacksonville. Colts are going to be better coached. I mean, how could they not be? Steichen, I think, will do a good job with Richardson, who I'm skeptical of, but Richardson, they'll do RPOs, they'll do play action. Every 3rd and 4th and 1, 3rd and 2, they're going to do that Philly tush push rugby play that they didn't outlaw. So that's a huge key. Hey, when it's 3rd and 2, they're going to get it a lot of the time with a big athletic quarterback that's going to take advantage of the rules. So that's something to keep in mind. This would be Indy or pass for me again. Hate laying points in week 1, so I will take them here with Indy.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. Next, we have the Niners-Steelers, another situation where you have a home team plus 2.5. The Niners looks like Brock Purdy is most likely going to play here. But then again, he had a pretty easy schedule last year, came off hurt. Now the pressure's on him. He's a starter now for sure. He won the starting position. Man, I lean Steelers at 2.5. Sure. I'm not sure if I'm going to get there, but I do lean them, and I think it's just another good teaser leg, Will.
Yeah, I don't know if there's 3 still out there. There have been 3s popping up here and there. It's funny. It opened San Fran Pick'em. That maybe have been the right side. Pittsburgh plus 3. That's probably right. I mean, the truth is probably somewhere in the middle there. Look, again, we mentioned don't take 2.5 until you have to. So hopefully get a 3, but nothing else. This is a good teaser leg for Pitt. This is sort of Pittsburgh's the opposite of Carolina, where you take away from the preseason is, hey, you don't want to get carried away, but you don't want to ignore it. Pittsburgh has looked outstanding. Pickett's looked good. Pickens has looked good. Tomlin is a tough, old school physical coach, so his teams are going to come in at game 1 prepared. It's not like, hey, this hasn't been we haven't taken the summer off here. They're hitting, they're practicing hard. I would see a close game here. It would be Pittsburgh or nothing for me.
Yeah, no disagreement. Pittsburgh or nothing. Let's move on to Tampa Bay, Minnesota. Minnesota's -6. This is going to be a popular, sharp survivor play because they're trying to avoid the Ravens. Yet people are going to grab Minnesota. But at the same time, I don't trust Minnesota's defense. And this could be just one of those weird situations, game 1. I never say teams are due because they won a bunch of one-score games. Minnesota should take care of this, but this is one that I probably want to completely stay away from. And I'm not even sure if I like the under in this. I almost would take the over 45.5.
Yeah, be a popular survivor, teaser, you name it. It's hard for me to lay 6.5 here with this Minnesota defense. They figure they'd be a little better with Flores. They were so vanilla last year with Donatel. That's a good offense, Addison and Jefferson. And even though they lose Cook, I think they'll still be able to move the ball. Again, I'm just allergic to laying points, especially this many points in week 1. Honestly, this is one where I probably lay it with Minnesota. They're so good at home, but I would look to play them in some fashion besides laying the 6. If I had to, I think they can get them by a touchdown. Tampa might be one of the worst teams in the league. They might be picking in the top 5 here, so I'll be a little different. I don't want to just take the dog every game. I'll lay the points here, tentatively.
Okay, lay the points. Well, Tampa's a fade type team for me too. I think they could be in the race for Caleb Williams at some point. They have a lot of old money there with Evans.
It's going to be hard to outdo Arizona. It's going to be hard to outdo.
I know it's making Survivor kind of weird this year. It's like everyone's just going to fade the other, and they could be right. It's just like Jesus. Well, let's skip through I have a play on the Titans Saints. Let's move to the Packers Chicago Bears. This is funny because the Bears kind of keep going down. They were -3 for a while, and I missed it. I wish I would have grabbed the Packers at +3. Now it's +1.5, and I'm upset with myself for missing it. But you know why? Bears have offensive line troubles. Fields hasn't looked that great still in the preseason, missing receivers. While you just haven't seen a lot of them. He only comes out for a few plays, and Jordan Love has played more, and he looks pretty good. And it's with Matt LaFleur. I've got a better coach here with Matt LaFleur here. I think the Packers will be a sharp ATS play eventually here, still at 1.5.
Yep, better team. Packers are the better team. Give me the points. Fields, I mean, I don't understand the hype for Fields for the Bears. This is still a bad offensive line, a bad defense. All right, DJ Moore is a nice little upgrade from what they had, but this is not exactly, prime Calvin Johnson or Jerry Rice or whatever. He's a good player, but there's still a lot of holes on this team. This is a bottom 10 defense in Chicago. Green Bay, probably a slightly better team. I'll take the points with the better team.
All right. Well, let's skip over the Raiders, Broncos, Rams, Seahawks, and let's go to the Eagles, Patriots here. I find this interesting because you have a home dog of 3.5. This was 4.5 a little bit ago. Now it's down to 3.5. And I was kind of thinking, do I take the 4.5? But to be honest with you, the way my power ratings are, I have the Patriots as a very average team. And I have the Eagles as one of the best teams, the 2 or 3 best teams, right? And so that's about a 6-point difference. Well, you give the Patriots 2 points for home field advantage, and here you are at the 4. So I'm just like, well, my power ratings line up. I don't, even though it's just being the first game, I would take the Patriots if I had to. But if my number lines up, I probably don't want to mess with it.
Boy, this is one where you're just going to feel silly either way because, man, it looks too good to be true. Everyone, Philly's much better than the Patriots, but you get Belichick with time to prepare, a good defense, at home with points. It'd probably be Patriots or nothing for me, but man, these rosters are probably on different levels here. So this is a pretty easy pass for me. If I had to make a play on this game, I'd probably play under. Philly's going to run the ball a lot. New England's going to play it close to the vest, low scoring, rely on their defense. So I'd go under here.
Cowboys, Giants, 3.5 at home for the Giants. This is at -120 now at Betfred Sports. I'm not gonna lie, I am not as high as the market is on the Cowboys, and I'm probably right in line with the Giants, but this makes it more of a +2.5 game for me. I could see just Dayball backdooring this if he needed, but I also see McCarthy just being a bad road coach possibly. I should look up his ATS on the road. I'm going to do that while you give me your thoughts real quick.
I'm down on the Giants. It would probably be Cowboys. I hate laying 3.5. I'd probably just swallow -1. What is it? -170 money line, something like that. -175.
Yeah.
It's not the worst thing in the world. You know what? I've gotten beat so many times in my life at the 3.5 with that hook that it's a nasty number to lay. I think Dallas is better. I mean, maybe split your bet with some of the 3.5, some of the money lines, so you don't lose it all. But it would be Dallas. I'm down on the Giants team. I understand your concerns about a backdoor, about Daboll. I understand all that, but it would be Dallas for me.
Yeah, I'm looking it up. Dallas as an away team is 19-6 since 2019. As an away favorite, I'm going to pull that up real quick, just kind of see where Dallas is. So my inclinations are wrong. The Dallas is 12-8 as an away favorite, so that's interesting. But you also have the divisional dog trend on the other side, so
right.
probably one that you either I would have to take the Giants or pass. So I'm probably passing on this one as well. And finally, let's go to the big Monday nighter, the Buffalo Bills at the New York Jets. And this kind of line has been bouncing around itself. It's sitting pretty right now at +2.5 with the Jets. The total is 46.5. There's going to be a lot of talk in this game. It's going to be a lot of media around Damar Hamlin. You got Aaron Rodgers, obviously, is just going to be a big media. This is a very exciting Monday night game. I must say that. I think the league made a smart decision to make this a Monday night. Now, I kind of hope the Jets win. Tony George was talking to me last night. He said because he wants to take the Cowboys against the Jets next week. And so that kind of makes some sense to me too. But I can see the Jets pulling this one off, man. I doubt it hits a 3. It's probably going to stay here at 2.5. If anything, it hits a juice 3. But what are your thoughts on this one?
Yep, it opened 3. Those got gobbled up very quickly. Pinging back, what are we looking at, 2.5 now? It would be Jets for me. I mean, I mentioned earlier in the show, they're so good on defense last year. Is like anything they get from Rodgers will be a massive upgrade. There's skill players everywhere. One of the maybe the most popular hookup combination in the league is going to be Rodgers to Garrett Wilson. That is going to be just dynamite to watch. So I'm excited for it. It would be Jets for me. That building's going to be fired up. They haven't had a good team in forever. I think this game is on 9/11. So in New York on 9/11, that's going to be a wild crowd on Monday night. Give me the Jets, Jets.
Woo, 9/11. I didn't even think of that angle. Well, there you go, man. I almost think Buffalo's getting a little tired. And, they lost some pretty good guys. Trey Edmonds on defense.
Miller
Diggs
for the first 4.
Right. And Diggs is getting a little long in the tooth himself, too, hitting the 30 years old. So, Yeah, man. They also lost Singletary. Now I know White's pretty good, but it's like you had this guy that's just been there and knows the plays and everything. And he's the running back. I can see them fumbling the ball. Ooh, this is gonna be fun. Definitely a teaser leg plus 2.5. You kidding me?
Yep.
This is gonna be maybe the most popular teaser leg of the whole week. But it's gonna be a lot of fun. And Will, it was a ton of fun to have you on, man. Always love talking to you some football. We're definitely gonna be reaching out to you more during the year to talk some football. Where could our listeners get your great information and media?
Yes, I'm on VSIN a few times a week, so check that out. Gold Boys Discord, twitch.tv/Gold Boys Network, 1 Eastern. And I will be joining Chris Felica's podcast every week, Bears Bets podcast on Fox. So listen to that. I will be contributing to that. Very excited. That announcement was just made today. So the first one is up tomorrow morning. So fun time of the year. Appreciate you having me. It was fun catching up.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a blast. And congratulations about that. That's amazing. It's going to be fun. You're going to be on Fox. Is that going to be weekly? I just missed that last part. Weekly?
It will be weekly. Yep.
Okay, wonderful. I'm excited. Tune into that. Check out Will Hill still at VSIN and on the Gold Boys Discord. Will, it's a pleasure as usual. We'll be talking soon.
Sounds good.